Welcome to the AECI Plant Health Podcast, where we have conversations that help you unlock nature's potential.
I'm your host, Dr. Pandil. Now, the global harmonized system of classification and labeling of chemicals, known as GHS, aims to communicate the inherent hazard of the chemical. Because of this hazard, there are certain risks involved with working with some of the products, but these are mitigated if the label instructions are adhered to. In this episode, AECI Plant Health Noelene Odendaal, Regulatory Manager, shares why this is a buzzword in the pesticide industry and what it actually means. Noelene, welcome. Why has GHS become the buzzword in the pesticide industry, and what does it actually mean?
So the FAO, the United Nations, has been pushing for harmonization of the classification and labeling of chemicals so that all chemicals have a global hazard classification matched by labels that leave no room for ambiguous interpretations regarding the chemicals. That means if a pesticide, for example, is classified as acutely toxic in a specific country and has a corresponding label somewhere else, that pesticide must have the same hazard classification and corresponding label in South Africa. Over the past 40 years, it's always been the prerogative of nations to have their own hazard classification and corresponding labels, of which the classification was based on the WHO, which is the World Health Organization, Human Toxicity Classification of Chemicals. GHS is an acronym and it stands for the Globally Harmonized System of Classification and Labeling of Chemicals.
Noelene, I'm curious to know, when exactly did this kind of force come to South Africa?
South Africa already signed the treaty to come on board as the rest of the world 20 years ago, and the Department of Employment and Labour promulgated a regulation on the 29th of March 2021 for hazardous chemical agents, with an amended regulation on the 29th of April 2022 to compel all manufacturers and registration holders of hazardous chemicals to reclassify and label their products according to the regulations, which encompass all the elements of the GHS requirements. The deadline for compliance in South Africa was the 30th of September 2023.
What does this actually imply?
It implies that all labels and safety data sheets for chemicals in South Africa had to be reclassified according to the new GHS system, and this needed to be approved by the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development. All products on the market for sale has to be labeled under the new GHS system and have the relevant GHS safety data sheet accompanying the product.
What does this actually mean for the grower, the end user, even the emergency worker, or the transporter?
It means that they must all avail themselves of the new label formats because they are vastly different from what was used up until now. This will mean that training will take place throughout the country on different levels and throughout the chain, meaning that even on the farm level, the farm worker needs to be informed about the hazards of each and every chemical he is exposed to.
Noelene, can you also maybe share the difference between the GHS versus the World Health Organization classification system?
The WH classification is based on human toxicity hazards and does not include hazards for the environment or anything else. It mostly focuses on the active ingredients' human toxicological profile. The GHS hazard classification, however, considers all ingredients, this meaning the active ingredient and the ingredients in classifying the product according to the GHS classification for human health, environmental health, and the physical environment. For example, some substances may carry a hazard warning for metal surfaces, and others may carry a hazard statement for flammability. All of the toxicological and physical chemistry data are included in calculating the hazard level of the formulated pesticide products using a complex equation.
Can you maybe share with us what are the GHS hazard symbols and some of those statements?
The visual part of the new GHS format label is the set of hazard symbols accompanied by a signal word, words that describe the hazard of the pesticide formulation. This could either be warning or danger. Take note that these symbols and signal words address only the hazards of the pesticides, not the risks. Risk arises when a person handles or uses the pesticide, and while hazard is an intrinsic characteristic of a pesticide that cannot be mitigated unless the formulation is changed significantly, risks can be mitigated if the correct precautionary measures are deployed. The GH format labels include precautionary statements such as the type of protective clothing that must be worn, keeping products under lock and key, preventing contamination of your water bodies, etc.
So if I understand correctly, the World Health Organization's color bands are no longer relevant. Why is that?
Correct. You will notice that the well-known color bands and the pictograms on the new GHS format labels have all been replaced. The color bands have been replaced by the hazard statements and the signal words, and these are universal in nature because they are the same for a product all over the world. The old WHO pictograms have been replaced by the precautionary statements. It is essential to take a look at the new pesticide labels to acquaint yourselves with the hazards and the precautions in order to apply the pesticides safely.
And what about the safety of the workers, Noelene?
Very important question. Safety for the worker and the risk mitigation has been built into the regulations. Personal protective equipment and clothing should be issued by the store manager to all spray operators. Pesticides are intrinsically hazardous and may cause harm to the person if the precautions are not adhered to. If the label of a GHS danger pesticide issues a precaution that the person handling or applying such a product must wear a respirator, then that is compulsory by law. It means the employer must issue the employee, which in this case is the spray operator, with a respirator mask, and the spray operator shall wear it when applying the pesticide at all times.
And finally, should producers be concerned for the future?
No, not at all, because the hazards of pesticides have not changed. GHS simply makes it clearer and broader than what we were used to. A person will now know that some products may cause damage to an unborn child, for example, or may even cause severe respiratory tract irritation. It is no reason to be scared of pesticides. All we need to do is to start implementing the precautionary measures when working with pesticides.
Thanks so much, Noelene Odendaal. And that's a wrap.
Another production from Solid Gold Podcasts.